How's everybody doing? Welcome back. Today we begin day 11, wherein we read the first part of the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, which is commonly called Dhyana Yoga, which is referring to meditation, especially the deeply uh, meditative practice called Aṣṭāṅga yoga. We can call it Dhyana yoga, meditative yoga, the type of yoga where one sits very peacefully and goes very, very, very deep within. It's interesting because Krishna is going to share a detailed description of the practice and the results of that practice. But if we look at it carefully, and this will be more revealed tomorrow, maybe I'll get into this more tomorrow, it's not because he's encouraging Arjuna to follow this path, but it's that Arjuna was thinking of this type of path for himself. And when Krishna finally lays it out in detail, Arjuna is going to have second thoughts about that. And we'll get to that tomorrow. But let's begin the chapter. And it begins, I don't want to say it's putting the final nail in the coffin, because topics will come up again. There will be mention again where Krishna is saying working is better than practicing yoga, wherein one walks away from their worldly duties. But the first verse of the sixth chapter is very, very adamant, the way Krishna speaks. And his message here is this, is that one who works with detachment, that person is actually what he calls the real sannyasi and the real yogi. Okay, now, Arjuna might have been thinking, you know what, the karma yogi, the person that doesn't walk away and sit and meditate all day, maybe they're a yogi, sort of. No. Krishna here is actually saying, not only does he say that one who works with detachment, he uses these two words, is the real sannyasi, the real renunciate. Normally we think that's the person that's out there in their loincloth and sitting in a cave. No. The person working in the world, but with inner detachment, is the real sannyasi and the real mystic, the real yogi. And then Krishna goes on to be more emphatic by saying, and not the one who lights no fire and performs no duty. That means lighting the fire means for the worldly followers of the Vedas, when you have a family, you have a home, you have your prosperity, you have children, and through all of these, you're trying to derive happiness. And there's always a fire to light. There's always a ritual ceremony that involves lighting the fire, whether one's getting married, whether one's buying a new home and entering into the new home, whether one just had some children. There's always some fire ceremony to do. So he's saying the person that lights no fire and performs no work, he's actually saying they're not a yogi. Now, I think Krishna's speaking in a somewhat human way, in the way that we would maybe say, like, oh, this bus is taking forever. It's not exactly that it's taking forever. It's just taking a long time. And here he's saying that those people aren't yogis. Now, he's validating that type of yoga in other places, but he's being very emphatic to Arjuna. The real sannyasi and the real yogi is the one that works in this world, but with that inner knowledge and detachment of the yogi. So that was, again, a very emphatic statement, in one sense, almost like a final conclusive statement. Arjuna, I want you to work in this world. I want you to take up your duty as a warrior. If you're asking for my advice, I'm insisting that that's the best path for you to take. And then in the next two verses, those are in the first two verses, he drives home that point. And in verses 3 and 4, he's beginning his description of Aṣṭāṅga yoga, and he's describing it on two levels. Now, again, Aṣṭāṅga yoga means the eightfold path, wherein one first practices yama and niyama, a real control of one's lifestyle. Then there's control of the body with asana, wherein one gets all the channels in the body, respiratory system, circulatory system, digestive system, endocrine system, et cetera, and the subtle channels of energy in the body that only the yogis really know about. Through asana, one can get the body flowing very smoothly, all the systems, which leads to a more lucid and peaceful mind. Then there's pranayama, right? There's yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, control of the breath, again, in order to settle the mind. Pratyahara, withdrawing of the senses, right? Going deep within. Dharana, practice of concentration. Dhyana, deeper concentration for longer periods of time, deeper levels of, now we could call it meditation. And then finally, samadhi, full-on trance, a very elusive state of mind, a very difficult yogic accomplishment. Now, Krishna is going to begin it by saying that the Aṣṭāṅga yogi, we can describe them on two levels. There's, in a sense, you could call it the lower level Aṣṭāṅga yogi, and then the higher level one. The lower level one, he's saying, for the neophyte in this eightfold system of yoga, work is said to be the means. You stay in your job. You keep your social roles as you practice learning detachment. And then for the more advanced, more elevated stage of yoga, then one walks away. You know, typically one would, in this path, one would walk away. This particular path of Aṣṭāṅga yoga, one would need to walk away to be able to find a place secluded and peaceful enough where they could go into these deep states of trance. And then the next two states, next two verses, text 5 and 6, are going to describe that this is all about the mind, and the mind can be your friend or your enemy. If you have your mind working as an enemy and you go out alone and you're secluded, it's going to conquer you. But if you can keep your mind engaged through duty, well, then you may get control of it, and you can even reprogram it so that it becomes your friend rather than your enemy. So that especially the manas, especially that very impulsive part of the mind that has its attractions and its aversions, it can be retrained to be attracted to that which is healthy for its liberation. So the mind can be either your friend or your enemy. And then texts 7 through 9 are very interesting. Here, Krishna is going to speak to Arjuna about the high-level Aṣṭāṅga yogi. What are their qualities? And I think that these verses may have scared Arjuna just a little bit, may have made him question his own ability to follow this path. That will, again, come out in tomorrow's reading. But what are the qualities of that high-level yogi? When we get there, Krishna is going to describe very much what we've been hearing before about samatvam, about even-mindedness. Listen to these verses. They're very nice. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached. Imagine that, right? That we have God in our own heart. We're just not reaching that. We're not hearing that voice because our mind is interfering, all the static in our mind. But for one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for they have attained tranquility. To such a person, happiness, distress, right? Heat, cold, honor, dishonor are all the same. Samatvam, right? They know these things come and they go. Pleasant times come, pleasant times go. It's hot one day, it's cold the next. People are honoring me one day, and the next day they're dishonoring me and saying all kind of bad things about me. I've already come to terms with it. I have an even mind. Now, how does that apply to things? Krishna is going to say, a person is said to be established in self-realization and called a yogi or a mystic. This is text 8. When they're fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and self-realization. Such a person is situated in trance and is self-controlled. They see everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. If you take a big brick of gold and walk up into the Himalayas and find some yogis way up there, and you say, here's this gold, who knows what it's worth, maybe this is worth millions of dollars, and say, I'm giving this to you. That yogi will look at that as if you've handed them a stone and say, what am I supposed to do with this? Go into Delhi and get money for it, and then what? Buy myself a home and try to go out and enjoy the wealth? I don't need this. I'm very happy where I am. You can keep this. They see a stone or gold as the same. That's an advanced yogi. But now listen to this. This is the more advanced yogi, right? And think about this. A person is considered still further advanced when they regard honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, people that have hostility towards them, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind, right? They're not pulled this direction and pulled that direction by how they're treated by others, or by the quality or the behavior of others. They can see underneath the spiritual equality, and they aren't shaken. Or how much are we? A person says one, we go to work, and maybe one person says something against us. Does it eat away at our mind? Does it disturb us? Does it cause loops of resentment playing in our mind? That person can never be the yogi. Only when they let go. And so look at this. This is something for us to consider very carefully. Krishna established that the advanced person, they see with equality in relation to things, right? Stones, gold, pebbles, etc. More advanced. And that was even quite difficult. Imagine if someone walked up to you and gave you $10 million, $1 billion. Would your heart not start racing? Would you not start thinking, oh, this changes everything in life? All the things that I've wanted, I can get. And all the things that I don't want to do, I don't have to do them anymore. Would you get excited? If so, maybe you're not ready for this kind of yoga. And still more advanced, can I see all people equally, right? Even if they have hostility towards me, even if they say bad things against me, even if they're working against me, can I, in my heart, bear no grudge, right? Can I, in my mind, maintain zero resentment? And there's another point that I want to draw your attention to, is that if we look here, Krishna has been repeatedly linking the idea of what a spiritually wise person is, spiritual wisdom, linking that with how one sees and relates with others, right? He's not setting this all out in some secluded place, but he's saying, look at the deep. If you want to see people that are deeply wise, people that are deeply spiritual, they have this kind of equality towards all living beings, right? Even when they behave poorly, even when they behave poorly directly at them, they manage to maintain this equality. And when I say Krishna is repeatedly linking this, if we think about it, remember back in the 4th chapter, text 435, where in 434 it said, how do you learn the absolute truth? How do you gain transcendental knowledge? You approach someone that has it. You inquire from them submissively. You render service. They will bless you. They will give you this knowledge because they've seen it themselves. And then what was that knowledge? That you see every living being as part of one, as part of Krishna's spiritual energy, or that they all belong to him, right? How we relate to others, how we see others. 4th chapter. 5th chapter, text 518, we heard that whether one is a very refined brahmana, or a cow, or a dog, or an elephant, or even a dog eater, a person whose behavior is very unrefined, this person has that samadarshana. They can see the equality in every living being. Now we're hearing how they see friends, well-wishers, enemies, people that have hostility against them. They see them all equally. It's a repeated message, right? If we want to advance as a yogi, we need to seriously consider and cultivate this idea. Can I let go of my resentments? Can I let go of my aversions? And can I see a spiritual equality underneath anyone, and respect them, and ultimately to love them? And I think when Arjuna heard that, he's thinking, I'm supposed to see people like Duryodhana, and Dushasana, who took my wife by the hair and dragged. It's not that you're supposed to see the behavior equally, but underneath you can see the person and bear no resentment against them, right? That's what it means to be this kind of yogi. I think Arjuna right here begins to question, I'm not sure if I'm ready to be this kind of yogi that I was aspiring to be. All right, let's move forward. When we start to get to text 10 through 17, these are the practices of Aṣṭāṅga yogi described. They live alone in a secluded place. Already, most people do not want to live alone in the forest, right? They're always carefully controlling their mind. They're free from desires and possessiveness. They create a proper sitting place, and they sit firmly with their neck and head erect, staring at the tip of the nose. They take a vow of celibacy, and they fix their mind on one point, right? They've done all of this so that they can begin to control the mind and fix it on one point. And then when we get to text 14, it's another one of these Krishna factor verses where Krishna brings himself. He begins to use the word much, me, right? He says me. Now that you've done all of these external austerities and found the perfect situation to try to settle the mind and focus the mind, where do you focus the mind? Much chitta, concentrate on me. This is text 14. Mat padaha, make me the ultimate goal of your life. And then he says, Shantim nirvana paramam mat sangstam adhigachati. For one who can do this, one who can become deeply absorbed, can deeply absorb their mind in me. Remember, we talked about wisdom, absorption, love. We're going to see that progression in this chapter. For that person who can concentrate on him and make Krishna the ultimate goal of their life, Shantim, peace, nirvana, paramam, the highest type of nirvana, mat stanam, in my abode, adhigachati, that person will achieve that. Right? Very powerful verses. Again, there's going to be another Krishna factor verse, because all of the other verses preceding that, any type of yogi, not necessarily the bhakti yogi, could relate to these verses and apply them. But this is a verse that leads to bhakti, right? The Aṣṭāṅga yogi focusing on Krishna so that they develop love. So through their absorption, they'll develop love. For instance, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is talking about the same type of yoga, is not going to be emphatic in naming Krishna as the object of meditation. But the Bhagavad-gītā is very clear about this, right? This is what you meditate on. This is why you go to the forest and become a yogi. Now, text 16 and 17 are instructions for regulating one's eating, sleeping, and recreation. These are going to be important for the yogi. And text 24 through 26, text 18 through 23. These are beautiful verses. We need to read them. All the verses that we're going to read for today, that continue from today, really from 18 to 32, are beautiful verses. And if you ever want to give someone a vision of why yogis practiced traditionally, it wasn't so that it wasn't just to make their bodies healthier, although that is an advantage and it could be used therapeutically. It wasn't for all of this, let's say, superficial reasons that someone might practice asana today. No, here's the reasons why they would practice. We can go to text 18. These are just 18. We'll read 18 through 23 right now. These describe the perfectional stage of yoga. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines their mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, they are said to be well established in yoga. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in their meditation on the transcendent self. Text 20 through 23. I often use these verses. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. They've got tremendous control of their mind at this point. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, they think there is no greater gain. Right? I don't want anything else. I've got everything there is to gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Okay. And then text 24 through 26, maybe we don't have time to read them all, but these are further instructions on controlling the mind. Now let's get to 27 through 28. These describe the happiness of the yogi who's achieved these stages. Text 27, the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. I'm made out of God's energy, right? And thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. There's no need for karma to correct him, to reform him. He's already reformed. His mind is where it's meant to be, right? Text 28. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free of all material contamination, achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Now, text 27 through 28, those describe the happiness of the yogi. Text 29 through 32, some of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad-gītā, they describe the vision of the yogi. This will help us understand, where am I meant to get my mind at? How am I meant to see the world and see other people? Here we go. Ready? This is text 29. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Right? I'm in the heart of every living being, and I'm supporting every being. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. This verse, text 30, is one of those Krishna factor verses. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. I have not studied all of the Vedas and the Upanishads, but it is my intuition that this may be a unique verse up to this point, like the beginning where we hear that offering sacrifice, making offerings to the devas, to the gods, that they respond to them by giving you something. But I don't know if we ever, up until this point, hear that they give you their own heart, right? For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost to them. They'll always have me in their mind and in their heart. But he's also saying that they're never lost to him, right? He says, nor is he ever lost to me. I'm always thinking about them, right? They mean so much to me. We're going to begin to hear this kind of talk when we get into the next chapters, 7 through 12. The bhakti. We've been reading the karma yoga chapters. Those are the bhakti yoga chapters, where that becomes what's brought to the forefront. And I think this is a little bit, we're in the middle of the 6th chapter. I think the influence of the middle six chapters are kind of bleeding over a little bit into it, and we're hearing that kind of deeply personal message. Next text, 31. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipable service of the Supersoul, God in the heart, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains with me in all circumstances. And text 32, he is the perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna. So we've been seeing, again, this description of the vision of the perfect yogi. Text 29 through 32. The perfect yogi sees Krishna everywhere. Let me get this frame for you, right? They see Krishna everywhere. They see everything in Krishna. And they see the spiritual equality of all beings. Let's focus on that. Think about that. Read these verses. Reflect on them. Meditate on them. Remember, I said that Krishna is repeatedly linking the idea of spiritual wisdom to how we see and relate to others. And in these verses, he's also included how we see him, how we see his influence, how we see his energy. Ultimately, the devotee, as they advance, how they see his love operating everywhere. This is the truly advanced yogi. This is the path of yoga that Krishna really, this is the vision that Krishna wants Arjuna to get. He's saying it can be achieved through Aṣṭāṅga yoga when you meditate on him, right? When you make him the object of the meditation. But Arjuna is going to begin to think, I don't know if I can do this. It sounds so difficult. We'll pick up there tomorrow. Thank you so very much. Always enjoying this time with you. Hari Om Tat Sat.